I will make a confession right out of the gate. Usually on Easter Sunday morning, every year since I have been ordained and even before, I had a sense of kind of coming down. Because I would look out at the packed church on Easter Sunday and think, you missed all the good stuff. The liturgies of Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and Easter Vigil are so rich and are my favorites over the course of the year that I would look out on Sunday morning and think, well, this is a wonderful celebration, but you've missed the good stuff. I don't have that feeling this year. With social distancing and recording services and no congregation, things have been incredibly different. And as I reflect upon it, though, I think that I have no right to think that it should be otherwise. After all, we are being responsible and doing all this for the good. And we just have to turn on the news and look around the world to see the devastation that the coronavirus, COVID-19, has wreaked havoc on so many countries and has torn apart New York City and other parts of our own country. And even our own community. My life as a worker at Upstate has changed dramatically, wearing a mask every day and all that goes into hand washing multiple times a day so that my hands are raw, and just distancing and caring for others and doing telehealth as we can. On Wednesday morning, I walked into work, and it was rather strange because the city has been all but silent. And Wednesday, I turned the corner to go into Upstate, and the street was full. It was full of ambulances, fire trucks, police officers parked. And I walked in, got in the parking garage and walked into the hospital, and trying to figure out what was going on. I thought something significant had happened. And something was happening, but what was happening was, and you may have saw on the news, 22 nurses from Upstate University Hospital were going down to Long Island to be deployed in one of those field hospitals. And I stopped for a minute, but I had to keep walking because I started to get choked up. And I was rather shocked because I grew up Irish Catholic. We don't cry. Maybe at a funeral, maybe. Maybe if you stub your toe really badly, a little bit, but other than that, we don't cry. So I took a deep breath and I kept walking. And I had to wonder, where was this emotion coming from? I think I've been keeping it down because, my patients need me at this time, because my family needs me at this time, because my parish needs me at this time. Needs me to be strong, needs me to be caretaker, and all those things are right and appropriate. At the same time, I think I'm dealing with the same level of anxiety and sadness that most other people are. I think it's talked about quite a bit. In fact, all we hear is talking. On the news, on social media, which we're all watching an awful lot of these days. I've never been offered so many free webinars and other things as now, and now I have no time to watch any of them. There's a lot of talking. Some people are really stuck in the anxiety and the suffering. I think especially of those young people who are looking forward to graduating this spring, who now their senior year is going to end in no spring sports, if that's what they were looking for, musicals and concerts canceled, and graduation ceremonies quite possibly canceled as well. They are kind of happy about the regents being canceled, but the other stuff really has taken away a lot of the joy of senior year. Colleges have also emptied out. So many people are out of work that it's even hard to talk about it. Our system of providing unemployment is busted, so much so that people have called thousands of times to try and qualify for unemployment. People are still waiting for checks. People are running out of money. Those who have struggled with substance abuse and mental illness continue to struggle, but more so. Those who suffer from domestic violence are suffering horribly. And people are even dying from the virus, not just from contracting the virus, and we've seen a lot of that, but they're dying because they don't have the help and support they need. And so they relapse again into using substances, or in despair, find other ways to end their life. And it's a really tough and difficult time. And maybe I see more of it than most. Hopefully most of you are at home. You may be a little bored, maybe a little stir crazy, but are sheltering in place and are basically safe, and that is a hope. At the same time, I think we have to recognize that this is the world we're living in. But I take consolation in the fact that this Easter Sunday story isn't just a Pollyanna version of the world. As I prayed with these characters, Mary Magdalene, Peter, the beloved disciple, and others, I could only imagine their pain and confusion. Their Lord had died. The beloved disciple and Mary Magdalene had been there at the foot of the cross and watched this horrific act, him who they had so much hope in. Peter wasn't there, but why? Because he had denied Jesus 3 times and run away. Filled with, I'm sure, shame and guilt, he's now trying to come to terms with how he acted in that most desperate hour. So they come to this empty tomb with a lot of confusion and a lot of questions, and I think that's appropriate for us in these days. And as I said, the world has been filled with words, and we've had our own services online. I've watched a lot of others. Most of them, been okay. I can't watch the stuff where people sit at home. I know what they're doing. I honor and respect it, but I still need a church. So I've been watching like the National Cathedral or Trinity Wall Street. Beautiful churches. But there was one preacher that really caught me, Father Raniero Cantalamessa. I butchered his name. He's the papal preacher, and he preached at the Good Friday service. And he said something that I don't know that I've ever remember hearing it quite this way, that struck me as powerful. Preaching about the cross and about Jesus and about everything that we've been through over these past days, meditating upon the mystery of Jesus' cross and resurrection, he said, but there is one effect that the current situation can help us to grasp in particular. The cross of Christ has changed the meaning of pain and human suffering, of every kind of suffering, physical and moral. It is no longer punishment and curse. It was redeemed at its root when the Son of God took it upon himself. What is the surest proof that the drink someone offers you is not poisoned? What is the surest proof that the drink you're offered is not poisoned? If that person drinks the same cup before you do. This is what God has done. On the cross, he drank, in front of the whole world, the cup of pain down to its dregs. This is how he showed us that it is not poisoned. But there is a pearl at the bottom of this chalice. I never heard that image before of someone drinking poison to prove that the food is not poisoned so that you can eat. But I like it. Because a lot of the explanations that people are giving us these days, I think, sound like just words. I can't make sense of what's going on in the world. I can't make sense of a global pandemic. We've seen it before with the AIDS crisis and others, but this is different. What we're going through is different. We've never had to shelter in place like this before. We've never been so separated from one another before. It's never been so glaring before that the inequality and divisions in our society are silly. We now see that more African Americans and people of color die from COVID-19 than the rest of the population. And it's not because they're more susceptible, but it's because the health care they have is so inefficient and unequal. We look around the world and we see so many people dying in poverty, not because they have to die, but because they don't have access to the means to live. And we see that social distancing works for those of us who have the means to social distance. But for the poor and those who rely on food banks and pantries, not so much. we see that the money that we pour into the weapons of war is going in the wrong place. And I think that we have to take a stance as Christians. We're all looking forward to getting back to our lives, but we cannot go back to the life we led. The real thing about Easter is that Jesus was not resuscitated. It wasn't simply a rising from the dead the way Jesus did with Lazarus, as we heard a couple Sundays ago. The resurrection is about new life. It's about never dying again. And all this will be in vain if afterwards we simply go back to the normal way of doing things and we are not changed. In this moment, we have to be resurrected. We have to let go of all those things which keep us from living in a way that is in line with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Peter said it best in his sermon to Cornelius and his family. He didn't try to explain away or give reasons to help these people understand what the resurrection was so that they could come to believe. What he said was, this Jesus of Nazareth who came to us, who lived among us, who healed the sick, who drive out demons, died on the cross and was raised again. And to this we are witnesses. We need words, we need connections during this time. But what we need more than that, perhaps, is to recognize that words, while they are important, often fall short of really grasping the mystery of who God is for us. I can't explain it to you, even if I tried. What I can say, though, is this. When I was in seminary, I learned that the Christ is present in 4 particular ways in the Eucharist, that celebration we have most every Sunday. Christ is present in the bread and wine. Christ is present in the word that's preached. Christ is present in the minister. And Christ is present in the people gathered. What I have learned during this time, when I've had to preside, I can still have the bread and wine. I still have the word. I still have me, but I don't have you. And so Christ is not fully present because we recognize that in and through our suffering and pain, in and through our following of this Jesus who went first, who tasted the food before we do, we find a great gift. Maybe not one that we can explain, but one that we live. One that we live in the everyday, one that we hope for, and one that we continue to proclaim to a world that needs to hear it.